Hi there, guys, and happy holidays. Um, I wanted to make this video because I've had a few live lessons with some people, and some people I haven't really been able to talk to that much because I know we're scattered to the four winds, and different people have um, different schedules. But I wanted to go over a couple of things. Number one, um, what you're doing for this week, and a little bit of help with last week because it was kind of across the board. So for this week, and it kind of ties into last week, all this is your stuff you're building up on. A few things. One, check out the live lesson that's in the live lesson folder, the one from the 10th. And I think that that will help out a lot because student and I were going over a lot with materials that I think would be beneficial to everybody. Um, Number two, so a few things actually. Number two, if you can, use your own models. If you're having problems, let me know. Send me the models and I could take a look at them, send them as an FBX, and I can poke around and see if you're having any issues that I can help you with. But it would be good so if you use your own models, if you have them, like some of you have taken the modular design course, now's the time where you should be able to pull those in and just be working on them and using the stuff you're learning from the class. Okay. The next thing would be this week we are going over PBR, physical based rendering. And the cool thing is, you guys have actually, if you've been watching the videos and going over the stuff, you've actually already been doing some PBR. So when you're using you're going into a material, and I'm just have a student's piece, just because it was open while I'm looking at stuff. And anytime that you're actually going in and you're utilizing roughness and specular and stuff like that, you're utilizing PBR. Um, you don't have to use all of its properties, but what I want to do is just have this video just as an extra to show you just a little bit of the PBR stuff and to discuss LERPs because there seemed to be a little bit of things that were off. And so, if once again, if you look at the um, live lesson from the 10th, you'll see we go into a little more detail on a lot of the stuff in discussion. So even if you guys aren't making the live lessons, you should at least check out the ones that are uploaded because they have a lot of stuff pertaining to that week. Okay, so first things first, PBR. So I'm just going to use this one because it's already open. So this is Jonathan. So I'm just going to create a new material. And with this material, you guys have been getting the instance and materials and the master materials really well. So everybody is doing awesome with that. When we're talking about the PBR, and you'll see that in the live lesson, there's a site you can go to for Marmoset. And what it is, oh, good Lord, no, I don't want that. Stop, stop, stop. So, what you can do is actually take a look at, let's go in, Marmoset, physical based rendering. And this goes, so if you do a search for Marmoset, and you could see the link here, post physically based rendering, and you can see some really cool stuff inside of here, and it really has a good definition and some examples that we discussed in the live lesson of PBR and how it works. It's using a little bit of a difference when it comes in Unreal. It talks about um, it changes some of the names. So your albedo in here is really your base color inside of Unreal. Your microsurface would be your roughness and so forth. So it gives you like just a little bit of an idea of this. Okay, so when I have a material here, and we'll get to the linear part, but I just want to go over this PBR just for a second, just to make sure people are okay with it. If I go in, let's just say we're just going to make a metal texture, and I'm going to create a few just basic parameters. And we'll call this one metallic. Call this one roughness. And we're actually going to make another one. Call this one specular. Now, typically, there are times you do it, but usually you don't use metallic and specular together. There are times you do. How do I know which one to use? You typically or might always have a roughness, but you don't always have a metallic and a specular. You could. Think of it this way. Metallic is literally if it has metal properties, and specular is pretty much for everything else, but you can combine them, right? So let me just say metallic. We'll put that in there. We're dealing with a metal. Okay, and I've got these guys. I won't hook up my specular just yet. And now I will make, this is just going to be my color. Okay, plug these in, save it. And I'm just going to make an instance material because if I don't, every single time I try to change a value, I'm going to have to wait for it to compile, and I don't want to. So we turn on all of those parameters, and we have this metallic surface with reflectivity showing the background, which is kind of cool. We have the metalness, which translates to the reflection here that we're seeing. So the metallic inside of this chart is the reflectivity. And you can see that as I change it, how it goes from being very reflective to not reflective at all. That's basically a 0 to 1 ratio. Going past that doesn't do anything. Okay. Then we have the roughness, and this is where you get the properties that you'll be looking at for metal and plastics. As I increase that, I start to bake this surface rougher, right? And this could be different types of metals and plastics. So the way of thinking about this with a 0, I'll just type it in. This is a chrome ball, essentially, right? Perfectly smooth, polished surface. As I add roughness to it and I make it, what it's doing is it's emulating microscopic imperfections in the surface. That's making it rougher and rougher and diffusing the reflection and the shininess of it, so that this is how we could get different types of metal. Now, this is where you go from a mirror to something that's like a brushed metal or plastic, depending on what other properties you put in, and what other colors that you put in, right? So if I go in, and this is going to be more of like a, like a red like this, then I can go in, and now I can start to really affect and get sort of a car paint kind of effect, or as I combine and manipulate these, right? Now, where this comes in is actually whenever I'm trying to actually get a certain material, and it's telling me what level of roughness these has. A mirror is super, once again, this is my roughness. So a mirror is smooth. This plaster is super dull, or not dull, but just lots of microscopic imperfections on it. So it becomes a lot more diffused with the shininess and the reflectivity. Then you have the reflectivity, right? So brushed metal is going to be very, very reflective. And as we start going back all the way back to rubber, we have something that's not reflective at all. If you do a search, you can actually find these charts. And these charts are kind of nice because they are actually, you can even sample these at times. This is telling you what the values are to get certain materials, right? That's your albedo. That's your, the M and the R are the reflectivity that they have up here. And the microsurface. The microsurface being roughness in Unreal, reflectivity being metallic in Unreal. So you can actually go in and use this as your chart if you want to get stuff looking really realistic. Okay, that's important to know. Now, beyond this, when we're actually looking at these, just as far as PBR, it's important to think about that when you're looking at your different materials and you're trying to get them to look a certain way. What is metal? What is grass? That kind of stuff. So that it doesn't look too shiny or too dull or things like that. Now, when I go into my material and I see all these other things, and we saw that there was a specular, and I can pull a specular in with the other parameters, save. And then we go into the material instance and we turn on specularity. You'll see that it kind of kicks it in. Once again, these values are 0 to, excuse me, 0 to 1. So they kind of play with each other. And what you see is I can start to get an extra level of shiny diffusion on this. But the specular is basically the global, where do I see these properties? So it just kind of turns them all off or down and makes this look more like a, if you keep tweaking like a Fong from Maya. Okay. I'm going to break that Alt left mouse button, just deselect. Now, the last thing I want to show you that's going to help you out, and once again, I go into much more detail with the live lesson, so please take a look at those when you can, or at least kind of thumb through them. But when we have these, I want to show you, because I've seen people using the LERPs, and some people are really getting into modifying the alpha, and some are not. And just real quick, let me just kind of show you how this works. Okay, I'm going to pull in a texture. Let's say this one, this tile texture. And the reason I'm pulling this in is if we look at this and I turn off the channels, we have something like this. Or I could, this is the green channel. This is the blue channel. That's the red. And there's no alpha. So I like the green channel, and you're going to see why. Because the way the linear interpolation works is it's a blender of two textures, materials, whatever you put into A and B. Effects, whatever. One, think of it this way. If I have this in my alpha, then one of those channels is going to be in the white and the other channel is going to be in the red. If I have a value in it, it'll be 50% blend. So what does that mean? That means if I go back into this material, and we saw the green, right? And if I go in, and I'm going to show you how this works, so we're going to get a little more detailed. I'm going to create a linear interpolation, L left mouse button. I'm going to pull the green into that alpha. And inside of the LERP now, right? Let's say I can do this several ways. Let's say roughness, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this roughness and I'm going to plug it into A. And I'm going to duplicate the roughness. Now it's roughness and roughness 1. I'm going to put that into B, and this goes into my roughness. Okay, stop that. So, and probably this will be a little bit easier for you to kind of guess. If I change this to roughness underscore A, and this is underscore B. Okay, and right, let's just save that. And here's a fun one. I'm going to copy, paste. So I have a LERP here. I'm going to put the green in the alpha here as well. And I'm going to put the color in A. Copy, paste. And the second color in B. I'm going to change this one, the name, color underscore A. B. All right. So we're using the green channel as the alpha for these two colors and these two settings for roughness. We hit save. And now we go back to our instance material and check this out. Okay. Let's put this actually, dismiss. Go away. And make you a cube. That's better. All right, so I want you to see what's happening here. I can change using this linear interpolation. I've made a more complicated color that I can, material. So I could change the color of this area. I could change the color of the grout itself if I turn it on. It's almost like a metal, see? And then down here is where I can change the shininess or reflectivity, let's turn off, of these different properties. Okay, so B is the grout. A is the blue part. So if I actually reverse that, you see that now it's only reflective where the blue is, but not where the grout is. If I change that back, now I've got this web, this like sort of metal mesh holding the blue. But the blue isn't like that. I could give it just a slight kind of little reflection going across it or shininess to it. And that's all using the linear interpolation to break up the properties of the white and the black. Okay. This can be used for adding dirt. It can be used for breaking up things, adding like different properties or just masking areas. And that's where the real power of this LERP comes in. It doesn't have to be a value. I could put it to texture inside of here and then tile the texture in A inside of these different, B different, and then have them broken up using this alpha that I'm just pulling a channel, and I had to open it up and see which channel I liked to do whatever I wanted. Okay? So what I would like you guys to do, try that out. You're pretty much, you're already showing PBR, you know. So it'd be nice, jump in to like some of your projects from last week and tweak out some of the LERPs and just kind of have some fun with them and adjusting things. Use your own models if you can. Ask me questions if you have them. I was a little bit off because my mom got sick and I was taking care of her, so I apologize. But I see that like half the people were getting it and half the people weren't, and just wanted you to kind of look at some of the stuff here And I am more than willing to set up times if you guys want to do a live lesson. Like if you say, hey, let's do one on Sunday or something, and we can get a bunch of people and I can show some stuff. Or if a bunch of people ask the same question, but you have to communicate with me. Okay. So let me know how that works. Look at some of the live lessons. Let me know if you have any questions. And have a wonderful Thanksgiving.